Welcome everybody. We're going to learn Tractate Shabbos, starting the 6th chapter. This chapter is called Bameh Isha, which means with what accessories may women go outside on the Shabbos. Uvameh ein hayotza. Just going to read to you the introduction of this chapter. As was discussed in the first chapter of this tractate, transferring object on the Shabbos, either from private to public, or from public domain to private domain, or for a distance of 4 cubits within a public domain, is prohibited by the Torah, and is the 39th melacha enumerated in the Mishnah in 73a. This prohibition applies only to objects being transferred from one domain to another, not to items of apparel worn by a person going from one domain to another. So not all items worn by a person are considered apparel. The item must serve one of the 3 functions. Number 1, clothes, to cover a person's body, shirt, pants, dress, etc. And number 2, protect one's body from elements, snow, rain, cold, heat, or from injury. For example, winter coat, raincoat, shoes, boots. And number 3, to ornament the person like jewelry, necktie, jewelry. Additionally, any item which helps fasten or otherwise abet the wearing of one of the 3 types of garments is also considered an apparel: belt, tie clip. Any item which does not serve one of these 3 functions, a key, may not be taken from domain to domain, even if it is fastened to one's garment, unless it also assists in one's 3 functions. Shulchan Aruch 301:11. And this is the Torah law. The rabbis, however, noticed that people occasionally took off certain items while in the public domain for various reasons, and forgetfully continued walking while still carrying those items, rather than putting them on again. To prevent inadvertent desecration of the Shabbos by carrying 4 amos in the public domain, the rabbis deemed it necessary to prohibit wearing when going out those ornaments or accessories which one might normally take off in the public domain. So this chapter 6, discusses various accessories worn by men and women, and details the biblical or rabbinic prohibition that pertain to the wearing of some of these items. We're going to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, with what accessories may a woman go out on the Shabbos? And with what accessories may she not go outside on the Shabbos? A woman may not go out either with woolen strands or linen strands, nor straps that are on her head. She may not immerse herself in a mikvah while wearing them until she loosens them. She may not go out with seisefes. What is seisefes? Frontlet. Or with head bangles. Bizman she'en tfurim, as long as they're not sewn, she'enan tfurim, as long as they're not sewn to her hat. She may not go out with a woolen cap into the public domain. No, may she go out with the city of gold. What is the city of gold? It says this was a gold ornament engraved with a likeness of the city of Yerushalayim. The ornament was a type of clasp. Shouldn't go out with that. No, with katlo. Katlo is also an ornament, was worn tightly around the neck. No, with nose rings. Go out with nose rings. No, with a ring that has no signet. Ring that lacks an engraved seal. is the ring with no signet, type that was commonly used to seal letters and packages. A ring without a seal is simply an ornamental. It is therefore only rabbinically forbidden to wear it outside on the Shabbos. This is not to imply that a woman is permitted to go out wearing a ring with a seal on the Shabbos. On the contrary, the Mishnah speaks only of a ring without a seal, because it is biblically forbidden for a woman to go out with a signet ring on the Shabbos. Such a ring is not an ornament for a woman, and is thus considered merely an item being carried on a finger. So we'll see it in the Gemara, but this is an idea of ring that has no signet. No, with a needle that is not pierced. But if she went out wearing any of these on Shabbos, any of these items on Shabbos, she's not liable to a chatas offer. The Gemara notes that the Mishnah ruling concerning immersion appears to be unrelated to the Mishnah topic, and question its conclusion in the Mishnah. Who made mention of immersion that the Tana saw fit to state that a woman may not immerse herself in a mikvah before loosening any woolen or linen strands or straps in her hair? This ruling seemingly has nothing to do with the prohibition against going out while wearing such ornaments on the Shabbos. Why then did the Tana include it in our Mishnah? What is the reason? What is the reason that a woman may not go out either with woolen strands nor with linen strands? The rabbi said, on weekdays she may not immerse herself in a mikveh while wearing them until she loosened them. Since she's not allowed to immerse herself while wearing them, on the Shabbos she may not go out while wearing them. Perhaps an obligatory immersion will come her way on the Shabbos. A situation will arise in which she is obligated to immerse herself in a mikveh, and she will untie them in order to properly perform the immersion. And then she will come to unintentionally carry them for Amos in public domain. Rav Kana inquired of Rav, open link threads, what is the law? May she go out with them on the Shabbos or not? Amar lei, Ori, come out. You inquire about a woven article. Kolshu Ori glegozu. Whatever is woven was not included in the sage's decree concerning hairbands. Itmar nami Amar Ravuna. It was also stated, Amar Ravuna Breder Rav Yeshua, Kolshu arig legozu. Ravuna, the son of Yeshua, said, whatever is woven article was not included in the sage's decree concerning their bands. I have seen my sisters do not insist upon removing these threads before they bathe. So again, if they don't remove them, then there's no concern of carrying them. What is the practical difference between the version of Avuna's statement and the version of that version of his statement? In both versions, he ruled that a woman may immerse herself and go out on the Shabbos with woven thread chains in her hair. There is a difference between them in a case where the chains are dirty, soiled. According to that version, in which Ravuna simply said, whatever is a woven article was not included in the sage's decree. So these soiled chains, two are woven, and thus a woman may go out while wearing them on the Shabbos. But according to that version in which you said that the sages decree forbidding the wearing of their bands was made due to a woman's insistence upon removing them prior to bathing, Kevan the Tenifu, since these chains are soiled, Mikpad Kaptolai, women insist removing them prior to bathing. And these interpose between the water of the mikvah and the person, woolen strands, linen strands, and straps that are worn on the heads of girls. However, says strands of wool or of hair do not interpose. Because the water penetrates them. And all of these, even the wool and linen strands, will learn in regard to items worn on the heads of girls. To exclude what? If you wish to say, the Ravuna wishes to exclude the strands worn on the neck, for what material are the strands he is excluding made? If you wish to say that he is excluding strands made of wool, now if a soft material wool tied onto a hard surface is an interposition, creating chatzitza. Can there be any question that a soft material tied onto a soft surface, skin, will interpose as well? Rather, Rav Huna wishes to exclude the case of linen strands worn on the neck. A similar difficulty arises now if a hard material, linen, tied onto a hard surface hair is deemed an interposition. Can there be any question that a hard material, linen, tied onto a soft surface skin will pose an interposition? This is the reason for Rav Huna's ruling that such ties do not interpose. A woman will not strangle herself by tying the strands around her neck too tightly. Girls may go out on the Shabbos with strands that are in their ears, but do not with drawstrings that are on their necks. But if you say that a woman will not choke herself by tying strings too tightly around her neck, why does the Baita rule that young girls may not go out with drawstrings that are on their necks? We are speaking of drawstrings of katlo. And in this case, the drawstrings do interpose. What is this katlo? So it says, in Talmudic times, a woman would sometimes wear an ornate bib called katlo. Like a baby is wearing a bib, so this one would wear a bib, goes around her neck, and then on her chest. The bib was tied around the neck by means of straps that laced through loops at the top of the bib. Women wearing such bibs would wind the straps tightly around the neck, so as to force the skin of the neck forward and create the appearance of a double chin. Why would you want to have a double chin? I don't know. The straps, being wide and smooth, would not cut into the skin and injure her, even though they were wound tightly around her neck. So this is katlo. type of a bib that was tied tightly around the neck, but still didn't bother the skin. The Isha Chonek Zasmo, for a woman, will tighten these straps and appear to choke herself with them. The Nirash Jirokwas Basa, for it is agreeable to her that she appear. Oh, here is the reason for a double chin. Back in the day,
up to Napoleon's time,
a big girl was something amazing.
Right.
So people would stuff themselves or they're trying to constantly create an appearance of being chubby.
Right, because that was back then.
That like represented health.
Right.
Today, being narcotic represented not narcotic, anorexic.
Yeah.
Is
right.
considered healthy. Back then, the big
that up till like
Tiroi Kivalis Baso, for it is agreeable that to her that she appeared to be a well-flashed woman.
Yeah. Okay.
Well-flashed. Okay. It says in number 2 in Talmudic Times. This is 57b1. In Talmudic Times, note 2, a well-flashed appearance was considered a mark of health and prosperity.
Right.
She's eating well.
Right. Because then they didn't have what to eat.
It was desirable to appear plump, and women would purposely tie the straps of their bibs tightly to achieve this effect. Yeah. Like today, we try to find ways to look skinny.
Right.
Back then, they try to find ways to look fatty. Rabbi Yehuda Emer shel tzemer v'shel se'ar ein choitzitzin. Buddha said strands of wool or of hair tied around one's hair do not interpose because water penetrates them. The halacha accords with Rabbi Yehuda regarding bindings made of strands hair. When you said the halacha means that there was got to be a dispute. Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda. V'chi teima, and if you will say that the Tanakama must hold that strands of hair are interposition, it had not been understood from the Tanakama that he was referring to strands of hair. Rabbi Yehuda too would not have referred to them. This is not a compelling argument. For perhaps Rabbi Yehuda is replying to the Tanakama in the form of just as follows. Just as you agree with me with respect to strands of hair, they do not interpose. Agree with me also with respect to strands of wool. The sages agree with Rabbi Yehuda with respect to strands made of hair, that they are not an interposition. Strands of wool are an interposition, but strands of hair do not interpose. Rabbi Yehuda says both strands of wool and those of hair do not interpose. The Mishnah derived through a precise reading of the Mishnah, meaning the support for this explanation can also be derived through a precise reading of the Mishnah. A woman may go out with a sheitel, with strands of hair tied around her hair, whether they are what they call today extensions,
right.
Whether they are fashioned of her own hair or the hair of her companion. Mani, whose opinion is Mishnah reflects, Rabbi Yehuda says that even strands of wool should also be permitted. You want to say it's the view of the rabbis. Therefore, learn from this that the rabbis do not dispute Rabbi Yehuda's opinion with regard to strands of hair. Shmamina indeed learn from this. The next part of the Mishnah was loivet tefes, that a woman should not go with the tefes. So the Gemara wants to know, what is the tefes? Once Tefes is a charm packet worn to ward off the effects of an evil eye. So it was some kind of amulet, maybe similar to amulet type. Charm pocket. So let such a necklace be treated as an amulet that is effective, and that it therefore be permitted. Apuznayu. Tetefes is not the amulet type to prevent from Ain Hara, from the evil eye. Rather, it's a frontlet. What is a frontlet? It says in 14, an ornament worn on the forehead. Still some cultures, they put certain kind of. Tanya Nami Achi, so that's apuzna. Tanya Nami Achi Yitzis Isha B'Svar Muzeves. A woman go out with a hat decorated with gold. That's a way to spend money. A hat decorated with gold. With a tefesus avitin a quimbo with a frontlet or head bangles that are attached to it. Is a tefesus avitin be'abau the tefesus amukevus namoizen loizen. Frontlet is ornamental plate which wraps around our forehead from ear to ear. So avitin magim la'ad l'chayer, while head bangles wrapped around the head and hung over the temples on either side, reaching until her cheeks, things that are coming down her face. Poorer women fashion these ornaments out of colored fabrics. The wealthy one, they make them out of silver and gold. Next thing is not to go out with kovul. What is kovul? Amar Biana kovul ze einil damar. Rabbi Yana said, I don't know what it is. I kavlo davlo tenan. If the Mishnah refers to a slave kavlo and teaches that a slave woman may not go out wearing it on the Shabbos, this kovul thing. It says an emblem placed on the clothing of a slave as identification of his status as a slave.
Yeah.
Very nice, huh?
What could you do if you want to have slaves?
That was back then. They had an identity. But kovul could also mean trapped, like someone that is. Maybe that's why they're coming with it. They're coming with the interpretation of a slave. But anyhow, it says kovul. Rabbi Yana said, I don't know what it is. If the Mishnah refers to slave kavlo, that it's some kind of an identification of a slave. But an ornamental woolen cap may indeed be worn outside on the Shabbos. Or perhaps the Mishnah's ruling refers to a woman's ornamental woolen cap. And certainly refers to a slave kavlo as well. It is more reasonable to explain according to those who say that the Mishnah is referring to a woolen cap. And this was taught in a Baita as well. A woman may go out with a kovul or an istima into a courtyard on the Shabbos. You can even go with this kovul, this ID clothes into a public domain. Rabbi Shimon said a rule. What's the rule? Any ornament, any clothing that is ornamental, that is decorational, that is worn underneath the hat, yoitzim. A woman may go outside with it on the Shabbos. But any ornament that is worn over the hat, ein yoitzim. A woman may not go outside with it. So maybe hats that have those feathers sticking out, it might be a problem.
Well, if they're part of the hat, I think it's okay. If it was like something that just goes on top of it but could fall off, that's the problem.
Anyhow, but it gives you a general rule. Anything that is inside the hat is fine. Outside the hat is.
I'm just saying you could have a feather that sticks.
But you
into
can
the
argue
hat.
that anything that's outside the hat is all those silver and gold hanging things also are attached to the
all
hat.
right, I don't know.
Anyhow, my istima, what is istima? Amar Rabbi Abba, bizyoine. Istima is bizyoine. So what is bizyoine? Amar Rabbi Amar Rav, kale peruche. It is a scarf worn for holding back stray hairs.
Okay.
What is stray hairs? Is saying
You know, like the women that go.
when it's completed braiding and putting up her hair,
If they're
or
covering their hair, they wear the schmott on their heads. You know, you should have seen this woman in Argentina. She had this big thing on her head like this.
Tanu Rabbanon,
Got to be friends with her.
Shloisha dvorim nemu be'istima. 3 things were said concerning an istima. Ein bo mishum kilayim ve'en mitam avgodim. Istima doesn't. It's not subject to the laws of shatnez, and it cannot become tamei through tzaras. Ve'en yotzim bo l'shus rabim, and a woman may not go out with this istima to a public domain. Mishum or b'shum amru. Ein bo mishum atoros kalos. An istima is not subject to the rabbinic decree forbidding crowns of braids. Let me just see what exactly istima was. Or did they say istima was? The Gemara says istima is bizyoine. Then we asked what is bizyoine. So the Gemara says kale peruche. It's a scarf worn for holding back stray hairs. So it's a scarf.
Yeah.
Now, what is the halacha? Not halacha, but what does the Gemara says? It's not considered kilayim when it's not and it's not becoming tumah. It's not susceptible to any tumah of negoim. Okay, so this is the daf for today. We're going to make another video on Tractate Sota shortly.